From towering steel giants built for survival to sleek warriors engineered for precision, the world of Pacific Rim is packed with unforgettable Jaegers. Each one tells a unique story of innovation, sacrifice, and humanity's unyielding fight against monstrous threats. Let's start at the very beginning with the crude but crucial first prototype that proved giant robots could actually hold the line in the battle for Earth. Brawler Yukon is the Jaeger you probably haven't heard about but absolutely need to know. It's the original Mark I prototype that proved neural drift could actually work in real combat. Long before sleek machines like Gypsy Danger and Striker Eureka, there was this bulky, clunky beast built purely to test sinking human minds with a giant mech. Now, don't picture a polished war machine. Brawler Yukon looks like an industrial factory's love child with a monster truck, thick steel plates welded for durability, heavy joints over mobility, and almost no fancy weapons. It wasn't about style or flashy moves. The focus was survival and testing structure, trading speed, and tech for raw toughness. Engineers were experimenting on neural drift tech, and this machine was their first brutal proof it could survive battle. Its combat history is fuzzy, mostly from comics and side materials, not films. What's clear is Brawler Yukon's short lifespan. It was probably too slow and underpowered for long frontline fights with kaiju, but its symbolic value is huge. It broke the door open for the Jaeger program, proving that two pilots could share a mind to control a skyscraper-sized weapon against monsters. You won't see Brawler Yukon in the spotlight or landing superhero punches in movies, but it's the unsung pioneer. Without it, the Jaeger dream might have stayed sci-fi fantasy instead of humanity's first step to fight back. It's the origin story wrapped in iron and sweat, proof the future of giant mech battles started with a clunky prototype that somehow got the job done. If you thought Brawler Yukon was just a footnote, wait until you hear about Romeo Blue, the Jaeger that took those lessons and went fully into battle mode. Romeo Blue is the unsung hero of the early Jaeger fleet, a Mark I American machine launched in 2015 right after the experimental phase showed giant robot defenses were possible. Piloted by twin brothers Bruce and Trevin Gage, Romeo Blue represents the Pacific Rim program's original idea, relying on deep family bonds to anchor drift compatibility before tech allowed strangers to team up. It's basically the Jaeger version of a big, tough older brother ready to brawl. Before you write off Romeo Blue as just a clunky prototype, hear me out. It wasn't like Brawler Yukon, a slow test model. This was a frontline workhorse and a symbol of American perseverance in the early brutal years. Its design screams heavy hitter, broad shoulders, thick armor plates that look more battleship than bot, and a fighting style focused on raw, brutal close-range punching. Forget sleek agility or lasers. Romeo Blue took hits and delivered bone-crushing punches up close. The details on its weapons and armor are a bit fuzzy, so the evidence is just moderate. What's clear is its combat relied on raw power with no frills. That punch-focused style probably helped when anti-kaiju tech was weak and monsters kept evolving fast. Pilots Bruce and Trevin had near-perfect drift sync thanks to being twins, making Romeo Blue a reliable frontline fighter despite somewhat outdated gear. Here's where it gets weird. Romeo Blue's fate is strangely vague, unlike sibling Jaegers Cherno Alpha and Crimson Typhoon, whose downfalls were well documented. Romeo Blue kind of vanishes from official records. Was it destroyed, decommissioned, or quietly scrapped? Nobody knows for sure, which only adds to its underdog legend. In Pacific Rim's history, Romeo Blue is more than a machine. It's a testament to the grit and raw industrial power that kicked off humanity's fight versus the kaiju. Not flashy or famous, but crucial for turning the tide early. But if Romeo Blue is rugged, wait until you meet Horizon Brave, the Chinese Mark I built for endurance in Hong Kong's urban jungle. Horizon Brave doesn't get the spotlight it deserves. This Mark I Chinese Jaeger was part of the multinational Hong Kong Strike Group, launched in late 2015, designed for endurance and defensive holding rather than flashy offense. While most early Jaegers are portrayed as brute force brawlers or experimental prototypes, Horizon Brave was optimized for the brutal realities of Hong Kong's vertical and densely packed urban terrain. Before you dismiss it as just background noise, hear me out. Piloted by Lohin Shen and Sichi Po, Horizon Brave shows the global reach of the Pan-Pacific Defense Corps, recruiting pilots from around the world to handle region-specific threats. This wasn't a one-size-fits-all machine. It was built to sustain long engagements while holding strategic choke points in the city's towering skyline. Think of it as the sentinel keeping watch over one of humanity's most contested war fronts. The Jaeger's design prioritizes stability and durability over speed. It's boxy, durability, with reinforced joints and heavy armor meant to soak up punishment and keep fighting. Unlike more agile Western or Russian Jaegers, Horizon Brave's purpose was to lock down and contain kaiju breakthroughs in cramped spaces where flare-ups could spread quickly. Despite the limited footage it receives on screen, ancillary sources highlight its value in coordinated multi-Jaeger defense formations, reflecting early PPDC doctrines experimenting with strike groups instead of lone heroes. Of course, the evidence quality here is moderate at best, mostly pieced together from background shots, official specs, and some promotional materials. Horizon Brave's story is one of the more elusive chapters in the Jaeger warbook, granting it an air of mystique that fuels fan speculation about what brutal battles it quietly survived. So Horizon Brave embodies grit over glamour, a testament to the harder, less flashy job of holding the line. But if you think this tough city defender is impressive, just wait until you hear about the American firepower powerhouse coming next, Coyote Tango. Coyote Tango. Coyote Tango isn't just another Mark I Jaeger, it's the warship turned battle giant that shaped one of Pacific Rim's most pivotal characters. Designed with a distinct Japanese influence, it blends the heavy-hitting feel of a naval warship with the sleek menace of a Cobra attack helicopter. Those massive shoulder-mounted artillery cannons aren't just for show, they made Coyote Tango a rare beast focused on ranged combat, while most Mark Is relied on fists. Before you dismiss artillery as silly in giant robot fights, hear me out. The Mark I generation was still experimenting, and Coyote Tango's cannons showed brute force punches weren't the only way to lock down a kaiju. These cannons packed serious firepower, hitting targets before the Jaeger even closed in. This combat style foreshadowed later shifts towards striking from a distance without giving up armor or raw power. Piloted by Stacker Pentecost and Tamsin Sevier, this mechanical war tank carries a deeply personal legacy, especially during the brutal kaiju attack on Tokyo. That fight wasn't just battle, it was the crucible turning Stacker from soldier to legend. The Jaeger's role helped turn the tide, but came at a terrible cost for its pilots, especially Pentecost, who paid dearly behind those artillery triggers. The design philosophy matches the combat record. Its combination of naval and helicopter aesthetics gives Coyote Tango a silhouette that's broad-shouldered and heavily armored, with twin cannons jutting out like battleship turrets on limbs. This brought engineering headaches, how to handle recoil from shoulder weapons on a bipedal frame weighing thousands of tons. Fans argue whether recoil management during drift control was realistic or sci-fi hand-waving. Here's the kicker. The neural link between pilot and Jaeger made it possible to manage recoil effects that would wreck normal machines. But here's where it gets weird. Despite this heavy artillery edge, Coyote Tango wasn't mass-produced or heavily iterated on. Most Jaegers stuck to close combat builds for a long time, making its ranged approach a niche experiment. It stood tall during Tokyo's crisis, but remained a historical outlier rather than the norm. Meta-wise, Coyote Tango is the clash between old-school military hardware and giant monster combat demands. It's basically battleship guns strapped onto a giant skeleton, relying on pilot brainwaves to keep steady. That tension between industrial might and neural finesse defines the Mark I era, and why Coyote Tango still sparks debate over balancing firepower and mobility. But if you think heavy artillery Jaegers are peak Mark I madness, just wait for Kremlin's Cherno Alpha. Cherno Alpha is the Soviet colossus of the Pacific Rim Jaeger lineup, an absolute tank built like a fortress and piloted by the indomitable husband and wife team Sasha and Alexis Kaidanovsky. As the oldest active Jaeger by 2025, Cherno Alpha isn't just a machine, it's a walking symbol of brute strength and old-school resilience in a world increasingly dominated by sleek, high-tech giants. Here's the thing, Cherno Alpha was never designed to be nimble. Its Mark I architecture meant it was built to soak up punishment, with armor thick enough to shrug off most kaiju blows and a low center of gravity that made it a near unstoppable brawler in close quarters. The design screams Cold War industrial power, a hulking, blocky head, massive shoulders plated with steel, and joints minimized to reduce weak spots. Agility? Forget it. This is a machine that wades into battle, knowing it will take hits, and dish out even more brutal hammer blows in return. Before you dismiss it as just a slow, lumbering relic, you've got to watch the Hong Kong battle on screen. Cherno Alpha jumps into the fray with a cold, relentless determination, grappling massive category for full kaiju, crushing limbs, and standing as an immovable anchor for the team. Its pilots move in near-perfect sync, leveraging raw power over finesse. But here's where it gets weird. Despite all that reinforced armor, Cherno Alpha's invincibility crumbles when the kaiju adapts, using acidic saliva and targeted strikes to breach the Jaeger's defenses. The destruction is both dramatic and gut-wrenching, shattering the myth that this Soviet titan was invulnerable. The emotional weight of Cherno Alpha's fall resonates deeply with fans. It's the last of the old guard, the last Mark I standing, and its destruction feels like the end of an era. The Kaidanovskis' stoic presence inside the cockpit, battling through overwhelming odds, adds a layer of heroism and tragedy few other Jaegers achieve. Fans often debate whether Cherno was done dirty by the script, robbed of a heroic exit, or if its downfall was an inevitable testimony to the brutal escalation of the kaiju threat. Either way, Cherno Alpha remains one of the most beloved and iconic Jaegers, a fan favorite for its unapologetic toughness and sheer presence. The evidence of Cherno Alpha's legend isn't just fan theory. The film's on-screen battle is a detailed showcase, and its pilots, Sasha and Alexis Kaidanovsky, are solidly canon. Every thundering punch and staggering blow is captured with a gritty sense of scale and weight, cementing it as the ultimate walking fortress. If Cherno Alpha embodies Soviet industrial endurance, Gypsy Danger represents the next step, a blend of old and new that we'll get into right now. Gypsy Danger is the underdog hero of the Pacific Rim universe, a relic Mark III American Jaeger launched in 2017, but still the beating heart of the whole franchise. At first glance, it looks like old tech shoved into a world that's already moved on. Powered by a nuclear core, Gypsy Danger might seem obsolete next to the sleek Mark V and Mark VI Jaegers. But here's the kicker, that old school power source gives it a resilience and raw staying power no one else matches. Before you dismiss it as just a rusty giant, hear me out. Gypsy Danger is no museum piece. Unlike flashy newer models, it thrives on brutal, versatile combat. Outfitted with plasma casters mounted on its forearms, it commands mid-range firepower capable of softening up kaiju from a distance. But that's only half the story. Its real trick? Retractable chain swords built right into its arms, blending ranged attacks with deadly melee precision. This combination lets it switch from shooting to slicing, like a Swiss Army knife of giant robot warfare, taking punches and throwing them back harder. The pilots behind the machine, Raleigh Beckett and Mako Mori, add layers to Gypsy's legend. These two bring not just skill, but the emotional grit that anchors all the story's human drama. Their bond perfectly syncs with the Jaeger's analog feel. That sense that old-fashioned human connection and sacrifice still matter even in a world racing toward technology. Raleigh's comeback from trauma and Mako's fierce determination make Gypsy Danger feel less like a machine and more like a stubborn, beating heart refusing to quit. We see this most clearly at the climax when Gypsy Danger carries out a suicidal mission to save humanity, detonating its nuclear core inside the breach itself. That sacrifice doubles down on its status as more than just metal and weaponry. It embodies resilience, hope, and the ultimate price paid to shut down the kaiju threat. Technically, it's also the last Jaeger built with an analog nuclear core rather than the cleaner reactors newer models use. That's a liability the PPDC scrupulously notes, officially deeming it a risk. But the data and in-universe records show Gypsy Danger consistently outperforms expectations, surviving battles that cripple more modern Jaegers. It's raw power balanced with versatility, and that makes all the difference. Far from being just the old guy, Gypsy Danger's arsenal and endurance keep it relevant throughout the war. Extensive screen time gives us a deep look at how this Jaeger battles, not just brute forces, but relies on adaptable, tactical, in-the-moment decisions, all while piloted by characters we root for. That iconic blue and silver chassis, glowing nuclear core, and signature plasma casters have become shorthand for David versus Goliath in giant robot form. But if you think the old school underdog charm is the whole story, wait until you meet a Jaeger designed not just to fight, but to innovate with a trio of arms and pilots. Next up, Crimson Typhoon. Crimson Typhoon is the whirlwind of the Hong Kong fleet, a Mark IV Chinese Jaeger piloted by the Wei Tang triplets, Wei Tang, Jin Tang, and Chung Tang. This machine isn't just a Jaeger, it's a radical experiment in drift synchronization, pushing the neural interface concept from 2 pilots to 3. Imagine the mental coordination it takes for 3 brains to control one giant robot seamlessly. These triplets pull off what most thought impossible, complex tri-pilot drifting that opens new frontiers in combat precision. Its signature design, 3 arms each controlled by 1 pilot, giving Crimson Typhoon an insane melee agility that no other Jaeger can match. This extra limb isn't a gimmick. It grants continuous fluid strikes, spinning in a deadly tornado of close quarters combat. The rotating blades and razor-sharp appendages let it chain attacks together, together in rapid succession, overwhelming kaiju defenses with unpredictable angles and relentless assault. Fighting with one arm is hard enough. Three arms dial the complexity and the damage through the roof. Crimson Typhoon's combat record is impressive, to say the least. It was central to Hong Kong's defense during multiple kaiju attacks, a feat unparalleled among mid-war Jaegers. Each battle saw it leveraging its fast-flowing strikes to counter the monstrous brute force the kaiju threw at the city, making it a keystone of Hong Kong's defense until its brutal destruction in 2025. Detailed battle footage shows just how effective the combination of tri-pilot drift and unique armament was in practice, and pilot interviews underline the mental discipline needed to keep those three minds in sync under pressure. But here's where it gets complicated. Crimson Typhoon's final battle highlights the limits of its specialized design. Facing the Category 4 Kaiju Otachi and Leatherback, it was overwhelmed and destroyed despite its prior successes. Turns out, even a machine designed for precision melee can be outmatched by kaiju evolving new, brutal tactics and adaptive cunning. Its demise was a sobering reminder that innovation has to be balanced by durability and versatility, traits some of the newer Jaegers prioritize differently. In fandom circles, Crimson Typhoon remains a standout for its boldness, both technically and visually. Some lament that it didn't get more screen time to show off its capabilities. Others debate the cognitive strain tri-piloting imposes, and whether such a system is sustainable long-term. Still, nobody disputes that Crimson Typhoon pushes the boundaries of what neural drift and close combat precision could look like when taken to the extreme. The evidence quality for Crimson Typhoon is strong. Its Mark IV classification, detailed pilot identities, and impressive combat history are all well documented and supported by on-screen footage and official records. Its destruction might be tragic, but it cements Crimson Typhoon as one of the most daring engineering feats in the Jaeger program. But if you think 3 arms and 3 pilots is wild, wait until you see the Speed Demon coming next. Striker Eureka. Striker Eureka is the rock star of pre-breach Jaeger engineering, a Mark V Aussie Titan built to be the fastest, deadliest defender before the Kaiju Gateway closed. This machine isn't just another robot, it's a lean, mean, precision strike weapon. Unlike bulkier, armor-heavy Jaegers before it, Striker Eureka was designed for speed and surgical hits, boasting the quickest reactor system powering missile arrays so advanced they left Kaiju wondering, where did that come from? Piloted by the legendary father-son duo Herc and Chuck Hansen, Striker Eureka carries more than firepower. It carries the weight of a military legacy. Herc is the battle-hardened veteran who's seen the war evolve, while Chuck brings fresh, adrenaline-fueled energy. Together, they sync perfectly in the drift, making Striker move like lightning and strike even faster. They aren't just pilots, they are Striker Eureka's perfect weapon system. Before you think Striker's speed meant it lacked brawn, hear me out. Advanced servo motors and attack protocols meant precision wasn't a bonus, it was everything. It had chest-mounted missile launchers that didn't just fire blindly, but used cutting-edge targeting to hit weak spots. This wasn't a shotgun blast, it was sniper fire from a walking tank. Its sleek design was less about bulk and more about high-velocity hits that neutralized kaiju threats before they got close. And it worked. Striker Eureka maintained an undefeated record up to the final battle. Whether fending off Category 4 kaiju on the Australian coast or smashing bigger threats, no enemy matched its speed and precision. Its combat record is spotless, like that kid who always aced tests without studying. But here's where it gets dark. During the climax to seal the breach, Striker took critical damage from a Category 5 kaiju. With its core compromised and no chance of survival, Herc and Chuck made the ultimate call. They sacrificed their Jaeger to clear the path for Gypsy Danger's final assault. That moment sealed Striker's legacy. It went out undefeated, with a selfless explosion that bought the world one last shot at survival. And that's not just storybook heroics. It symbolizes everything Striker Eureka stood for: speed, precision, and sacrifice for the greater good. It wasn't a machine for fans to gush over, it was a war hero, a technological peak turned martyr. From a fandom angle, Striker sparks debates. Its speed and tech are widely admired, but how does it stack against Gypsy Danger's brute force and nuclear power? Some say the missile arrays give Striker the range edge, while others swear Gypsy's chain swords and firepower win close up. Either way, Striker's place as the apex of Mark V tech before Jaeger production shut down is rock solid. The evidence is right there in the movies and extended lore. Canon details about its Mark V status, defending Australia, the Hansens piloting it, and that unforgettable last stand. No guesswork needed. Striker Eureka is the sleek, lightning-fast legend whose undefeated streak ended only with the greatest sacrifice. If you think Striker's story sets the bar high, just wait. Next is Bracer Phoenix, a Jaeger that blurs old-school tech and next-gen experimentation, shaking up expectations Striker never could. Bracer Phoenix. Bracer Phoenix is one of the Pacific Rim universe's most mysterious Jaegers, sitting right on the blurry line between the Mark V and Mark VI generations. Officially in Pacific Rim Uprising, it's labeled as a Mark V, suggesting it's a veteran machine from before the breach, still active in 2035. But the Uprising novelization complicates that by calling it an experimental Mark VI, placing it after Saber Athena and Gypsy Avenger. This contradiction has sparked endless fan debates. Is it a relic or a next-gen pioneer? Design-wise, Bracer Phoenix looks like a rolling artillery cannon built for sustained ranged fire over quick melee. Its bulky frame and heavily armored chest scream tank, plus it features a third pilot behind the usual two, an extra set of eyes operating heavy rear weapons. This unusual pilot setup mixes old-school mechanics with newer tactical ideas, perfectly capturing the hybrid, half-forgotten tech vibe of the post-war Pan-Pacific Defense Corps. It's like they took core Mark V engineering, slapped on experimental upgrades, then said, label it however you want. In combat, Bracer Phoenix fights alongside full Mark VI units during the 2035 Kaiju Surge, showing the PPDC didn't just scrap older Jaegers once the breach closed, they refitted and redeployed them to squeeze value and diversify tactics. Watching it hammer enemies, you see the PPDC's upgrade style. Evolutionary, not revolutionary, slow but steady. It's the dependable artillery workhorse next to flashier blades and jet speed fighters. Here's the kicker. Conflicting classifications between official film sources and expanded novelizations mean its exact Mark status isn't clear-cut. Fans digging through files and lore are split between seeing it as top-tier endgame tech or a high-end Mark V relic pushed into the limelight late. Both sides have solid points, which is, well, not ideal if you want a clean lineup, but perfect if you enjoy heated internet debates. This fuzzy identity makes Bracer Phoenix a symbol of how the Jaeger program evolved after the war, and how blurred those generational lines really are. It's a mystery machine that refuses simple labels, reflecting the complexity of upgrading massive war machines with new tech while keeping them battle-ready. Bracer Phoenix isn't just a Jaeger, it's a walking debate about canon, tech, and continuity. But if a hybrid artillery mech with a triple pilot crew sounds wild, wait until the sleek Gypsy Avenger takes the spotlight. Gypsy Avenger. Gypsy Avenger is the next generation hero rising from the ashes of Gypsy Danger, carrying the legacy of Pacific Rim's most iconic Jaeger while pushing things forward with cutting-edge tech. It's the Mark VI flagship of the Pan-Pacific Defense Corps and the spiritual successor to Gypsy Danger, stationed at the Moylan Shatterdome before the 2035 Kaiju Resurgence. Piloted by Jake Pentecost and Nate Lambert, it links the old guard to the new breed of Jaeger pilots, blending legacy and innovation in one sleek package. Before you picture just a simple upgrade, hear me out. Gypsy Avenger refines everything that made Gypsy Danger beloved, but swaps the bulky, clunky vibe for a smoother, more agile frame. The improvements start under the hood with enhanced drift stabilization tech, which tightens the neural link between pilots, cutting mental fatigue and boosting reflexes. That means more seamless coordination and quicker reaction times in battle, not just raw firepower. Speaking of firepower, Gypsy Avenger is modular, swapping weapons easily to fit the mission. Its loadout includes updated energy weapons inspired by the original plasma casters, plus returning favorites like the signature chainswords, now revamped with modern materials and energy boosts. This modularity lets it adapt to new threats on the fly, super handy given how unpredictable Kaiju tactics got in 2035. Gypsy Avenger doesn't just look like its predecessor, it carries the same blue and silver color scheme, the glowing chest core, and an instantly recognizable silhouette, but with sleeker lines and sharper angles that scream next level. It's basically Gypsy Danger if it had spent a decade in the gym and earned a black belt in robot combat. This polished look mirrors its role as the flagship Jaeger of the new generation, ready to inspire hope while packing cutting-edge tech. Operationally, Gypsy Avenger was thrown into the heart of the 2035 crises, fighting not just Kaiju but rogue Jaegers as well. Its versatility was tested constantly, proving indispensable in a conflict where old tactics often fail. Whether adapting to new Kaiju mutations or going toe-to-toe with hacked Jaegers, Gypsy Avenger showed that fusing legacy design with innovation was humanity's best chance. Its pilots embody that legacy in action vibe. Jake Pentecost, son of Stacker Pentecost, the hero behind the original Gypsy Danger, has serious shoes to fill, paired with Nate Lambert, a cocky ex-pilot with a chip on his shoulder. Their dynamic brings fresh energy to the saga while grounding it in the sacrifice of the previous generation. This blend of character and machine makes Gypsy Avenger more than a Cold War bot with lasers. It's a symbol of redemption and evolution. Among fans and lore keepers, Gypsy Avenger stands as the undisputed protagonist Jaeger Jaeger of Pacific Rim, uprising, loaded with detailed canonical data cementing it as the face of the Mark VI era. Comparing it to Gypsy Danger isn't just nostalgia, it shows how the Jaeger program matured after the breach closed, moving from desperate improvisation to strategic precision. But if you think Gypsy Avenger's story ends with upgrades and legacy pilots, wait until you meet the long-range specialist taking the spotlight next, Guardian Bravo. Guardian Bravo flips the Jaeger script by specializing as a long-range skirmisher instead of the usual close combat bruiser. This Mark VI model is designed with burst foils, jet-like rockets mounted on its back that aren't just for show. They give Guardian Bravo impressive burst mobility, allowing it to zip around the battlefield faster than most of its heavier, slower siblings. Think of it less as a tank and more like a whip-smart duelist who strikes and fades before the kaiju can respond. But here's where it really draws attention. Guardian Bravo wields an electrically charged whip weapon. It's a massive, coiled energy whip that dances with lightning arcs, extending the reach of this Jaeger beyond typical melee range. Before you roll your eyes at the idea of a whip fighting a skyscraper-sized monster, hear me out. This weapon isn't just a flashy gimmick. It lets Guardian Bravo control the pace and distance of combat, entangling, striking, or restraining kaiju at a range most Jaegers can't touch. It reshapes the traditional Jaeger approach, from brute force slugfests to surgical, ranged harassment. That said, the whip's practicality sparks heated debate among fans and critics alike. How effective is a whip against heavily armored kaiju hides? Is it mainly for show, or does it deliver real damage? Some argue it wouldn't stop a category high 4 kaiju in its tracks and is better suited for snaring or distracting. Others point out the whip's electric charge and high tensile strength could cause genuine disruption or even disable sensory organs if wielded skillfully. Plus, its lightning effects add undeniable cinematic flair, so whether it's a realistic weapon or a stylish flourish, Guardian Bravo's whip makes it stand apart as a symbol of finesse over raw power. Interestingly, Guardian Bravo's pilots are relatively inexperienced trainees, highlighting how this Jaeger's niche role provides a more forgiving combat environment for new cadets to develop skills without immediate risk of close quarters punishment. Its long-range, hit-and-run style fits perfectly with that tactical specialization. This Jaeger isn't about steel and brawn, it's about clever engagement and battlefield control, offering a fresh tactical flavor in the Mark VI roster. The evidence for Guardian Bravo's role, design, and weapon systems is solid, coming from official PPDC documentation and detailed visual specs. The burst foils and whip are its signature elements, making it arguably the most unique Jaeger in the latest generation. It's a clear demonstration that in the evolution of Jaegers, raw strength isn't always king. Sometimes it's all about the reach and the rhythm of the fight. But if you think a fast, whip-wielding skirmisher is a weird departure, just wait until we get into Titan Redeemer, the walking wrecking ball of the fleet and a completely different kind of beast. Titan Redeemer is the embodiment of raw, unrelenting power in the Mark VI Jaeger lineup. Known primarily as the walking wrecking ball of the new fleet, this imposing heavy hitter stands out with one unmistakable feature: its seismic morning star. This isn't just any melee weapon, its design channels catastrophic kinetic force. When Titan Redeemer swings that massive spiked ball, it sends shockwaves rippling through the ground and directly into whatever kaiju unfortunate enough to be hit. It's less about precision and more about overwhelming brute strength, close quarters combat where sheer force ends fights fast. At first glance, Titan Redeemer looks like a throwback to the original brawler archetype, the kind of Jaeger you imagine smashing through concrete and bone alike with terrifying efficiency. But here's where it gets interesting, or complicated. Unlike older heavy hitters like Cherno Alpha, Titan Redeemer appears in the 2035 fleet piloted mainly by cadet teams. This choice tells two stories. One, that operating such a physically demanding weapon requires intense training and coordination, and two, that the PPDC entrusted these frightfully destructive tools to the next generation, with all the risks and unpredictability that entails. Imagine trying to maintain perfect drift sync while literally swinging a wrecking ball hard enough to crack the earth. Not an easy gig. Official sources are clear about Titan Redeemer's role. It's the blunt instrument meant to carve open battlefields and break down the toughest kaiju armor. The seismic Morningstar itself isn't just a prop, it's engineered to deliver shockwave damage that can disrupt a kaiju's internal structure beyond the localized impact. This makes Titan Redeemer a unique asset in a team, complementing faster or more precision-focused Jaegers like Saber Athena or Guardian Bravo. Where those Jaegers dance and slice, Titan Redeemer just bulldozes, straightforward and unyielding. But if you're expecting a deep origin story or detailed pilot backstories here, you're out of luck. The official lore on Titan Redeemer is surprisingly sparse. It fills the archetype so well that it almost becomes a symbolic placeholder for brute force in the Mark VI era rather than a fleshed out character itself. That's moderate to strong evidence quality in and mechanical details, but limited on personality or history. It's the brawler with a job to do, not the sentimental hero. Fans often liken Titan Redeemer to a medieval wrecking ball brought to robot warfare. Simple, brutal, and undeniably effective. Its role continues the franchise's legacy of close combat heavy hitters who bring the pain by smashing first and asking questions later. If you think Titan Redeemer's raw power is impressive, wait till you see how Saber Athena balances agility and precision in the next Jaeger, Saber Athena. Saber Athena is the lightning-fast duelist of the Mark VI Jaeger lineup, trading brute force for precision, style, and surgical speed. Unlike the heavier tank-like Jaegers designed to soak up damage, Saber Athena's slim, sleek design screams agility and finesse. It's built for close-quarters combat, slicing through kaiju with twin energy swords that flash faster than most opponents can react. Before you imagine it as just a fancy sword-wielding showboat, hear me out. Saber Athena's entire chassis is optimized for speed and acrobatics. The armor isn't bulky, it's purpose-built to reduce weight and maximize pilot responsiveness. This means it's less about enduring heavy hits and more about avoiding them entirely. Pilots operating Saber Athena have to be top tier, executing complex maneuvers and timing attacks down to the millisecond. It's the kind of Jaeger that can flank enemies, slip past their defenses, and finish them off before they know what hit them. Official sources and tie-in media place Saber Athena squarely among the Mark VI generation, alongside Gypsy Avenger and others, representing a shift toward tactical dueling and skilled pilot synergy over brawling. The two energy swords it wields aren't just for flashy visuals, they allow for rapid, precise strikes targeting the weak points kaiju try desperately to protect. And this isn't just a cool design choice, it reflects a strategic evolution where speed and surgical elimination trump blunt force. The evidence backing Saber Athena's prowess is moderate to strong, relying heavily on its appearances in Pacific Rim, Uprising tie-ins, and the Pacific Rim Shatterdome Strike attraction, where it's one of the standout Jaegers. Fans have embraced its anime-inspired aesthetics, often comparing its twin swords and fluid combat style to classic giant robot anime protagonists, which fits perfectly with its role as a new generation's symbol of finesse and flair. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Saber Athena operates best in a coordinated team, working as a flanker or finisher. It leverages openings created by heavier siblings like Titan Redeemer or Bracer Phoenix to dart in and unleash deadly blade strikes. This combat role demands expert piloting and flawless timing because one mistimed attack or defensive lapse could mean disaster for a generally lighter armored frame. It's the Jaeger equivalent of a master duelist turning the tide of battle with skill, not just raw power. In the grand scheme, Saber Athena stands as Pacific Rim's answer to the high-tech sword-wielding warriors of classic mecha anime, bridging Western monster wrestling with Eastern stylistic elegance. It represents a new generation's approach to kaiju warfare, fast, tactical, and brutally precise. But if you think that's all fancy footwork, wait until you see the dark, relentless power of the Obsidian Fury next. Obsidian Fury. Obsidian Fury is the ultimate what the hell moment in Pacific Rim. Uprising, a Jaeger that tosses out the whole pilot concept and goes full rogue. It's a pilotless Jaeger-class drone fused with kaiju bioorganic brain tissue, essentially a living weapon controlled not by humans, but by a cloned kaiju brain embedded deep inside. Think of it as the nightmare offspring of man and monster, blurring the line between mechanical war machine and alien beast in a way the franchise hasn't done before. Before you chalk it up as just another cool villain robot, hear me out. Obsidian Fury's design isn't just dark and slick for style. It's built to terrify, blackened armor that's sharp, angular, and designed for speed and brutal melee combat. Its signature weapons? Twin chain swords on each arm that shred other Jaegers with raw violence. Some promos hint at a plasma caster, but the film keeps that pretty subtle, leaving fans to piece together its arsenal from trailers and toys. This combo of cutting-edge tech and bioorganic control makes it the perfect symbol of hybrid warfare, melding human engineering with alien biology to create something completely uncontrolled and unpredictable. Here's where it gets really weird. Unlike normal Jaegers piloted through synced neural links, Obsidian Fury operates autonomously, run by kaiju neural architecture. It never hesitates or weighs moral choices. It's basically a kaiju trapped in a Jaeger frame made for pure killing efficiency without human interference. This flips the franchise's whole theme. The line between man and monster isn't just a metaphor anymore, it's literal. Humanity's attempt to weaponize what they once fought backfires, spawning a machine that slips from their control entirely. Narratively, Obsidian Fury is is the perfect antagonist for the climax. It's a dark mirror to Gypsy Avenger and other human-piloted Jaegers, showing the dangers when control surrenders to alien instincts and unrestrained tech. Their battles are some of the film's most intense moments, featuring speed, brutality, and cold mechanical logic sharply contrasting with the camaraderie and improvisation of human pilots. Among fans, Obsidian Fury sparks mixed opinions. Some admire its bold concept as a sign the franchise is evolving, suggesting the real threat is weaponizing alien biology itself. Others criticize the film's skimpy details compared to tie-in materials that mostly mention its weapons and origins in passing, making its exact specs feel vague. Regardless, its hybrid Jaeger kaiju nature fuels endless debate on what it means to fight monsters when the lines are already this blurred. The evidence on Obsidian Fury is moderate. The movie shows its power and menace enough, but most specifics about its bioorganic systems and weaponry come from toys and promos. Its core identity, pilotless, kaiju brain-controlled, lethal drone, is clear and compelling, though the full technical picture is a bit patchy, which is, not ideal for fans wanting a clear stat sheet. But if a Jaeger without pilots freaks you out, wait until you hear about Scrapper, the scrappy underdog rethinking what a Jaeger can be. Just says. Scrapper turns everything we think we know about Jaegers upside down by proving you don't need a government or huge military budget to build one. Piloted and built entirely by the resourceful teenager Amara Namani, Scrapper isn't a towering giant. Instead, it's a compact, powered exoskeleton-style Jaeger that focuses on agility, improvisation, and surviving the tight confines of city streets. It's the ultimate scrappy underdog in the Jaeger world. Before you dismiss it as a cute side project, hear me out. Scrapper's single-pilot drift system breaks with the tradition of the two-pilot neural link every other Jaeger depends on. That alone shatters the idea that giant robots need intense synchronized brains to function. Amara controls everything herself, making Scrapper a true one-person mech. Its smaller size and stripped-down, nimble design are optimized for the urban battlegrounds where massive Jaegers would be slow and clunky. Officially, Scrapper is classified as a rogue Jaeger, built independently of the Pan-Pacific Defense Corps. That makes it hugely significant. It symbolizes Jaeger tech becoming decentralized and accessible enough that civilians with talent and drive can join the fight. This grassroots innovation shakeup shows it's no longer just governments and armies on the front lines. Regular people can have a stake in defending the world. Plus, Amara building it herself from scavenged or stolen parts highlights a genuine DIY spirit. Some early confusion about Scrapper's origins is understandable, but canon confirms Amara is both the sole engineer and pilot. No mysterious Kai helper hiding behind the scenes. The tech it uses isn't as shiny or advanced as the sleek Mark VI Titans, but its close quarters effectiveness is undeniable. Scrapper challenges the idea that Jaegers need to be giant two-pilot monsters to matter. It proves size and crew are not everything. Smaller, faster, and controlled by one pilot's brain, it redefines what being a Jaeger means. More agile, personal, and adaptable. It's a beacon for anyone who feels giant robots have been too exclusive or government-controlled. With enough skill and heart, anyone can build their own giant defender. Amara embodies that scrappy rebel spirit perfectly. She's driven by survival and grit, not orders or politics. Scrapper's role in the story highlights how Jaeger tech is democratizing, no longer just top-down command, but growing from grassroots fighters. This hints at a future battleground where not only colossal state titans fight, but also nimble, scrappy machines built by individuals battling for everyone else. So while Scrapper lacks the firepower or legacy of Gypsy Danger or Striker Eureka, it's arguably one of the most important Jaegers canonically. It proves the Jaeger program isn't just for massive armies, it's for the people too. If you thought the rest of the fleet was impressive, wait until you see what one determined kid can cobble together in the city's shadows. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.